Every year, Apple has their very own presentation, and usually what that involves is a brand new phone, maybe a handful of iOS updates, and maybe just something really cool for the community. One of those things this year was the brand new iPhone 16. This phone is to say the least. I haven't heard many great things about it. That's why I wanted to take a look at this video by FTP talking about how the iPhone is a terrible iPhone. I don't know if it gets any more blatant, blunt than that. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it.
This is iPhone 16.
Right.
And this year, I'm choosing it over the Pro.
Oh, wait. Interesting. I will say, I don't really like the iPhone 16 base model with the dual camera being stacked. I just don't like that look. I wish they would have had them in the square format. Regardless, that's just my opinion. My opinion about the iPhone 16. See what I mean? Like where they're stacked on top of each other instead of angled. Interesting. Okay. Plus the action button. I don't have an action button on my phone.
Perfect form factor, perfect design, perfect color, with
I like the color,
unfortunately
I like the blue.
a perfectly fatal flaw.
Okay. Oh.
Every year since Pro iPhones became an option, I have purchased one. At first because I actually got more out of the phone. The Pro phone did more for me.
That's fair.
And even while the base model started to catch up year over year, I kept buying these, almost purely based on habit or because I had to have the best, most expensive one.
Personally, I think that's kind of the whole goal. That's just me, though.
This year, though, I think it's finally the year for me to think different. iPhone 16 is everything iPhone hardware should be. It's compelling and a phone that I know I will use 100% of. And I gotta be honest, there's something really charming about going back to basics. It's much lighter than my previous 15 Pro. It looks better, a lot better, and it's almost comfy. Something about the edges of this phone make it feel soft in your hand. It's like for the first time in years, I have just a phone in my pocket. I really...
Sometimes this is like watching a movie right now with like the story. It's like, oh, wow, what are we gonna go from here? This is what it is. I'm like, I feel like I'm so conflicted with like your messaging. It's like you want to tell me something, but you're like beating around the bush to tell me what you want to say. And it's like, oh, I really like this. Tell me more. I need to hear more. I want to hear more. We're a minute 30 into this video, and like I feel like I've heard what I want to hear, but I don't know if I've heard what I need to hear.
I like that. And the color?
All right, we're back onto the color. Okay, nice.
I mean, come on. The color is the best ever on an iPhone.
Blue. I love
actually infused into the glass itself. The color on all normal 16 models are incredible and
giving
arguably
iPhone
more
5S
personal.
vibes.
All right, now it's your turn. With a phone like this, I gotta ask,
I remember when
do you really need
that.
this one? iPhone 16 Pro is the first iPhone that's too pro, even for me. Many of the features here are starting to encroach into our territory. Don't get me wrong, the things that iPhone 16 Pro is capable of, absolutely mind-blowing. But it's also getting very specific. If somehow I have an...
Oh, okay, that could be, maybe that's like the hint. Maybe that's the foreshadowing element of this video. I feel, and this is what I've maybe heard, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, whatever, hasn't been like that much of an improvement from the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. So it's like, well, I might as well just keep that. But maybe that's their intention to get us to buy the iPhone 16, maybe? I don't know. Like, there was obviously more storage, more cameras, but I'm puzzled. Tell me.
To shoot ProRes log video with an iPhone or use it to capture studio quality audio? Then surely I have enough time to just use the real thing. The results from 16 Pro are good, but I know I can do it better. If this is going to be your everything device, including for content creation, then absolutely spring for this. It's not only worth it, it's a value. The microphone you're hearing right now is $1,300 by itself. Our studio camera, you don't even want to know. This iPhone can get you 75% of the way there. It costs less than our microphone and also does phone stuff.
Right.
The difference for me this year is I just want the phone stuff. See, the gap between the Pro models and the base models has never been smaller. With the regular 16, it doesn't feel like Apple is holding anything back. It doesn't feel like you're being punished with a worse experience if you don't get the Pro.
Right, okay. And this is kind of what has happened with the last previous iPhones, being the base model, which is like the iPhone 13, 14, 15, whereas like the Pro and Max are like stuff that you really want to have. So you're going to get it because it's like, why not spend the extra $200, $300, maybe even $400 to go get it for the maximum quality of iPhone and smartphone, that is. Whereas like the base model, it's almost kind of just like buying like a Tesla Cybertruck, but with just like the single motor. And then you can spend more money for the dual motor. Then you can spend even more money for the tri-motor.
And that's how it should be. Sure, some features like ProMotion and the always-on display did not make their way to the 16 from the Pro, but neither of these features are anything I care about. I get it. If a 60Hz display is a complete deal breaker for you, that's fine, but it is not for me. And it isn't for most people outside of this weird tech bubble. Don't worry though, this is far from Apple's worst crime here. But we'll get to that. Oh, and the always-on display? Yeah, I straight up forgot about that being a thing until our writer, Brian, reminded me about it. So, oh well. I guess I didn't care about it too much. The A18 chip in iPhone 16 is already faster and more capable than I could ever need. You can't find a phone from any of the big players that struggles to do any task that a phone is supposed to do. And the iPhone 16 is no exception. Email, YouTube, browsing TikTok, wasting money on Amazon. There is no universe where I would need to do those things any faster.
I agree. I feel like there's like this superficial like need to have like super fat, like everything needs to be like a notice. I have an iPhone 10 that I bought from a friend. This phone is, I don't know, maybe 8 years old. I could do every single thing right away. The only thing that's slowing things down is my internet. That's basically it. That's basically it. It's simply just internet at that point. What is this video about American failing German elevator?
It's 2024. Most phones are faster than you need them to be.
Yeah, right.
The speed differences here are negligible. Even the camera, while technically being a downgrade from my 15 Pro, is crazy good. The base 16 is missing an entire lens compared to the Pro, but that doesn't matter as much anymore. We used to need to compensate poor, small smartphone sensors by adding more specific lenses. But the sensor in this phone gives you more than enough headroom to work with. Need to zoom? There's enough megapixels here to allow for zoom cropping. The main sensor on iPhone 16 is 48 megapixels. Our studio camera, 33. There's rarely going to be a moment that you could capture with iPhone 16 Pro that you couldn't also capture with this. And plus, the vertical 2-lens array on the back of iPhone 16 just looks so much better than the massive chunk of lenses that's sticking out of the Pro. You can't change.
That's maybe one thing I've differed on so far. I prefer the clunky square than like this. I don't know. Let me take off my case real fast. There's just a part of me that, I mean, yeah, maybe there's not so much wobble. Like I'm trying to wobble my phone. I can't really, other than the corners that don't have the camera. I don't know. I prefer, I feel like that look was not revolutionary, but it was so iconic to them because like Samsung, all of theirs are straight down. Yeah, I prefer the square more than I prefer the stack.
My mind, I'm taking no further questions. The way photographic styles are integrated again this year is very good. I personally love using them as a set and forget way to add my own vibe to every photo I take. But if you want, even on the base models, you could really start to tinker and play with color in your own way. Audio mix is pure witchcraft. I mean, I would never use it, but I'm an artist. For people who don't know anything about audio or just don't want to fuss around in that department, Apple has somehow been able to replicate sounds, make it sound like you recorded in a studio in a semi-convincing way. The coolest part? Audio mixes on the 16 Pro and the regular 16. The brand new camera control button is the standout change to hardware this year for both 16 and 16 Pro, and it's great in theory, but it's never the idea that matters most. It's the implementation. And in this case, camera control is a great idea with poor, borderline lazy.
Wait, so there's a lot of like buttons on these iPhone 16s. Is that button almost like as if you were to take like a normal picture on a DSLR or a point and shoot? Is that, I think that's the concept that they're going for?
Implementation. The
like,
functions
also
that this
it would
button
sit-
gives
it
you
would also
access
sit
to,
still on the
they are
side.
not new,
Okay.
and most of the time are more
get that.
easily accessed without using the button at all. And while camera control is one of my disappointments with the iPhone 16, it is unfortunately still not the fatal flaw that I alluded to earlier.
Oh.
Let's talk about that.
So wait, I'm so confused now. Does he like the phone or does he not like the phone? It seems as if, this is where I'm at, the iPhone 16 is better than the Pro and Max version, but the iPhone 16 is still a terrible iPhone. I think that's what we're about to get to here.
After the sponsor break.
Oh
Man, the
my
iPhone
God.
16 is
It's a sponsored break, man.
If
Come
you
on
look at
now.
what a Mac is, it's OS 10.
Just make
right?
sure
It's
to
a beautiful
subscribe,
box, but it's
if
OS 10. And if you look at what an iPhone will hopefully be, it's software.
Thank you,
and
Steve
so
Jobs, man.
The big secret
It's like
about
Stan
Apple,
Lee,
of course,
you know?
not so big secret maybe, is that
Look what
Apple
they
views
gave
itself
us.
as a
They gave us so
software
much
company.
hope.
One of my biggest gripes with the tech community at large is that we seem to constantly get so caught up in changes to hardware that we forget what really makes a good phone good. Software. Remember how I said the camera control button was poorly implemented? Yeah, it's in the software where that happened. The hardware button itself is fine, good even, but inside the camera app where you actually use it, it's more redundant than anything. They didn't even bother to adapt the camera app to this feature. It's just lazily tacked on and quite literally overlapping the bottom portion of the app. The functions take too many steps to access, and by the time you're ready, the moment is gone. But that's why these are so important in the first place. Somehow we have taken for granted just how easily accessible cameras like this are to us, that they are on the phones that we're going to carry around anyway in our pocket all day, every day. But the real benefit to using this over the real deal is convenience. The ability to capture any moment in front of you, not just quickly, but reliably. And the camera control button not only strays from that, it breaks it. Even the very best hardware is only ever as good as its software. You're not buying a Mac, you're buying Mac OS. You're not buying the iPhone, you're buying iOS. And unfortunately, iOS 18 does not feel like the newest, best version of iOS.
Just upgraded probably like 2 weeks ago. It does not feel like iOS. Like iOS 16, my life was great on iOS 16. When I'm typing words, it's just like broken. It's like, no, that's not what I meant to type. I don't like when I'm like misspell a word ever so slightly and it's like the whole world, the whole chain of events just breaks. I don't like that.
The very best of Apple culminated into one refined experience. Instead, iOS 18 feels like every version of iOS ever piled on top of each other. There are just too many cooks in this kitchen. And due to Apple's complete obsession with secrecy, those teams don't communicate properly. iOS 18 feels redundant. It's change for the sake of it. It feels heavy, messy, incomplete, rushed. Those words don't even begin to properly describe the feeling of frustration that I have. And that's just frustration over what actually made it in, because many, if not most, of the features advertised for iOS 18, and yes, even the 16 series, did not. Okay, here we go. Apple Intelligence, the elephant in the room. It was announced months ago. And not as a promise for iPhone 16, Apple Intelligence is not exclusive to these phones. It was promised for iOS 18. And yeah, while I'm sure Apple Intelligence will be good, maybe even great, it's not here. They say some features are coming in October, but only some of them.
It is October 15th as of recording this video. I have not gotten any Apple Intelligence. I will look at my settings really quick after I look at the German elevator. General software updates. It's not there. Not there.
And only in the US at first. The new version of Siri, you know, the one that's advertised everywhere, plastered on
Siri's
advertisements for iPhone 16, and was part of Apple's adorable marketing campaign, that version will not be on your iPhone until next year. Yeah.
Why? Exactly. Why? Just like, it kind of feels like Tesla and Apple do this a lot, where they kind of promise these things and they don't really follow through on like maybe half of them. And maybe like the half that they didn't, they get like half of that done. So like another quarter's done. So 75% of the entire thing is done.
This is just the latest entry into a serious problem growing in Apple, releasing, sometimes only announcing features that are just not ready. I don't know, part of me wants to understand, like, maybe Apple just felt uncomfortable for the first time in a long time. The pressure from AI announcements raining down from every other major tech company was just too much. 2024 was the year of AI, and Apple didn't want to be caught with their pants down. So they rushed to announce 2025 features in 2024 with effectively zero plan. And the Apple I know wouldn't have cared. They would have waited until they knew it was ready. Apple makes the hardware and the software to all work together. That's the pitch, right? That's supposedly why and how iPhone is better. But if Apple truly is a software company, like Steve said, how has it become such an afterthought? Yes, iOS 18 is finally customizable, just like you wanted. Kinda, but it's also bloated, unfinished, and broken. Unfortunately, the real truth is, and if you take nothing else away from this video, take this with you. With the way things are right now, it doesn't matter which iPhone you buy, how fast or how pro, when they're all running the same software that the world's largest tech company let slip. While we're all so busy arguing over things like the base model not having promotion or saying that this is just an S year, worrying that the newest release is boring compared to the heyday of the early 2010s, when phones like these were still new enough to make massive leaps forward year over year, the real problem is being totally ignored, and it can't afford to be ignored for much longer. Apple is losing sight of what made them Apple. They're on the verge of becoming exactly like one of the competitors they like to scoff at. Just another hardware company. Luckily for them, the hardware is amazing, nearly perfected. There's only so much you can do with a rectangle, and Apple, more than most, has done almost everything that can be done with that shape. The iPhone 16
They have two action buttons on one side, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw that. One of them being like the little camera thing, but then they have two action buttons of some sort on one side. It just feels like power button, action button. Well, no, because the action button's above the volume. I don't freaking know. Like, one of them simply for a camera, apparently. I haven't tried any iPhone 16s, but that's just not exactly what I would have thought it to be. Plus, I like what he said. Let me finish the video before I
The iPhone 16 really is an amazing iPhone that just doesn't feel like the iPhone anymore.
Ooh, interesting. I will say this is, what is it? This is I like what he said when he was talking about the Steve Jobs being like, Apple is a software company. The hardware comes second. AirPods, Mac, MacBook, iPhones, iPads, iPods, Nano. The software is Apple. The hardware is to make that software come to life. And I like this video because I felt like it was a culmination of, how did we get here? Is Apple going through a midlife crisis right now, or is it just me? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you guys are new here and want to see any more videos like this. Comment a video that you guys would like to see down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Subscribe!